Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. You may not know this, but I am a bit of a Brandon Sanderson fan. Now you're probably thinking, what? No. Over the past year, my impression of booktube has been that there are two camps with Brandon Sanderson. Either you fall into the hardcore fandom, that's me, I'm the fandom, or you just hate everything that he does, and there's no in between. I'm sure there's more nuance there than I'm thinking, but oh well, nuance be damned. I've resisted talking about him for my first few weeks here on booktube, but let's be real, he's a hugely popular author, and because I'm a fan, I've decided I'm not going to hold off any longer, and I'm going to start talking about his books. My plan is just to start making videos talking about his books here and there, kind of just going through in order of publication. So today we're starting off with Elantris, his first published novel. This will be a largely spoiler-free review, so if you haven't read the book, you should be safe. Originally printed in 2005, Elantris tells the story of a city of gods struck down by a mysterious plague. Once upon a time, the city of Elantris was a shining beacon of magic and power in the land of Erelon. Everything about the city was beautiful and wonderful, but nothing more so than the actual residents themselves, called Elantrians. People came from all across the continent of Opalon to receive gifts of healing, food, wisdom, what have you, from these godlike beings. Anyone of Erelish descent had the potential to become an Elantrian through a magical transformation called the Shead. For most, this was seen as a blessing. However, 10 years before the story begins, a cataclysm called the Riyad, or is it the Rayad, occurred, and the magic of Elantris evaporated overnight, leaving behind a city devoid of beauty and turning the once powerful Elantrians into shells of their former selves. Now, Elantrians are basically immortal, and even in their cursed state, they're still immortal. But rather than healing from injuries and not really needing too much sustenance in the way of food and water, they now exist in a perpetual state of hunger, and any injury that they acquire remains forever. In the present, anyone who is taken by the Shead, which is now a curse, is then cast into the city and locked within, and they're basically dead to everybody else on the outside. And so the story begins with just that type of an event. Prince Raoden awakens one morning to discover that he has been transformed into an Elantrian. He is promptly thrown into Elantris, and the official story in K, which is the capital of Erelon since the Riyad, is that the prince died of a mysterious illness overnight. At the same time, at the beginning of the book, the prince's betrothed, Serene, has sailed from the nearby kingdom of Tiad to wed Raoden and create a stronger bond between the two countries. She's a pretty sharp, perceptive person, and she deduces right away that there's something off about Raoden's supposed death. Then at the same time, a third important individual, Hrathen, has also sailed to K. Hrathen is a Gjorn, a very high-ranking priest from the Shu-Dereth religion, which comes from the kingdom of Fjorden, the dominant power of Opalon, or as the Fjordell call the continent, Sikla. The story centers around these three characters. Initially, all three have separate goals and separate paths that then kind of intertwine as the story goes on. Raoden wants to find out what caused the Riyad 10 years prior and how to reverse it, thereby restoring the city and its inhabitants to their magical prowess. Serene must navigate the political scene of this new kingdom that she's been thrust into, while also contending with Hrathen, who provides the ticking time bomb, as it were, for the story. Hrathen has been sent to Erelon to convert the whole kingdom in 90 days. If he fails, then Wern, the leader of Fjorden, will send his armies to destroy the whole kingdom of Erelon. Since there are three main characters, Sanderson employs a triad structure with the majority of the book, which allows the reader to expect a certain order of the POV chapters, all taking place roughly at the same time in each chunk of three. The triad generally follows the format of Raoden, Serene, Hrathen, only breaking down toward the end of the book when the climax kicks off, or as we in the Sanderson fandom call it, the Sanderlanch. Alright, let's talk about characters. Raoden is a fun character to follow. He is a good person through and through, and he presents a persistent optimism about the situation in Elantris, which is how he ends up making allies and bettering the lives of the denizens. I also think there's a big emphasis nowadays on morally gray characters. So someone like Raoden, who is purely good, is actually kind of nice to read. He's still an authentic character with numerous struggles, but you don't have to question his morals the whole time. Now, Serene was actually my least favorite character of the three main ones when I first read Elantris, but she's actually grown on me over time in subsequent rereads. I think that's because she's a sharp, witty character who's tasked with basically keeping Erelon together in the stead of her late husband, because most of the aristocracy, including the king, especially the king, are either corrupt or inept, sometimes even both. She's also the one who recognizes the threat Hrathen presents right away and tries to thwart him. Now, as much as I like Raoden and even Serene, Hrathen's actually my favorite of the three main characters. You don't often get to follow an antagonist's POV story for the entirety of the story, and while his chapters are generally shorter, his mission is the main force that's driving the story forward. He also has a really deep internal struggle with his faith throughout the novel, and I really like seeing how those sorts of things play out. Now, this wouldn't be a Sanderson review if I didn't talk about magic. If you're a Brando Sando fando, you'll know that he's well known for his intricate magic systems these days, but I would say Elantris is actually on the softer side, relatively speaking. The source of magic in this novel is known as the door, not the opening kind. And the chief magic we see used is Aeon Door, where Elantrians can draw aeons, basically magic symbols, in the air to produce different effects. It's similar to the one power from the Wheel of Time, where it acts like it's a hard magic system because it has rules, but since the magic can basically do anything, it's not as hard as it pretends to be. And that's actually my preferred magic, where we have a solid framework that outlines how it functions, but there's still enough wiggle room for lots of different effects. By the end of the book, we actually do see glimpses of other powers, including a like blood magic, sacrifice magic sort of thing. So I am excited to see how he explores those in the future. The book is enjoyable overall, but not without its flaws. So what book is? You can definitely tell this is the first published novel, although it was technically the 6th novel he had ever written. My chief complaint would be that it does get a little overwritten at times. Certain scenes probably could have been cut down for a little faster pacing, and that critique isn't unique to only this Sanderson book. However, I kind of like when authors overindulge and linger with characters for a while, so it doesn't really bother me too much. The actual only real complaint I have is not knowing enough about how Elantrian society functions when Elantris is actually up and running with its full magic. Elantrians are basically gods in this society, so I really do wonder, are they all altruistic and they just provide their services for free, or is there a monopoly on like healing magic and food and all these other things that the Elantrians can create, and is that why people were so dependent on them before? Basically, were the Elantrians actually not as good as they're meant to be, and did they hold the people hostage in a sort of indentured servitude thing? I'm gonna guess probably not, because Sanderson is usually a little bit more optimistic about life and people and things, but it would be kind of fun to take a look back at the past of Elantris and see if there were like, I don't know, evil capitalist landlord Elantrians who were just sucking up all the wealth from all the common people. Anyway, overall, it's a fun read and a good book, and I do recommend it, especially if you like characters who are a little less morally gray these days. Well, I think that is all for today. As always, thanks for stopping by my channel. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel if you're interested in hearing more about my thoughts on various stories, including more Sanderson ones. Leave a comment below if you've read Elantris and let me know your thoughts on it, or feel free to just say hello. I post videos on Sunday and Wednesday. Until next time, I hope that you have a wonderful day, and I will catch you here in the next video.